Hello everyone. My name is Peter. Welcome to the true stories being shared here. Please sit back and listen to today's story. Should I request a paternity test now or wait, considering the small possibility that my pregnant wife is cheating? My wife and I have been together for 12 years. I don't know how else to describe it other than to call it a perfect relationship. I think in those 12 years, we've only really argued maybe 2 or 3 times. We do everything together, but have never had an issue allowing each other to live our own lives and pursue our interests. We bought a house we both love. We both have high-paying jobs with a great work-life balance. Basically, everything was flawless. We've been trying to have a baby for 2 years, but it hadn't happened yet. We were just about to start fertility treatment when I came home from a business trip. And guess what? She's pregnant. Suddenly, this strange thought hit me. Wait, I thought we hadn't been trying last week because of the fertility test. But I couldn't remember exactly because, to be honest, we were busy with it. So I just assumed I remembered wrong. Now I travel for work across the country pretty frequently. Besides COVID, there have been times I've traveled up to 40 weeks a year. Because of COVID, it's been less, but still over a week a month. In the past 4 to 5 years, my wife has become very close with a guy she works with. Let's call him Matt. Matt is a bit younger, I think around 34. I know him, he's married, I know his wife. I think they've worked together for about 7 years now. He's always around, and he and I are on friendly terms. Have I ever thought something was going on? No, but I've always thought. You'd be stupid not to think there's at least a 1% chance your spouse might step out. Maybe I'm naive, but I've always considered it a safeguard to not take my wife or any other partner for granted. She's never given me a reason to think she'd do that. But anything is possible. About a month ago, I was away for work and she was home. I asked her what she was up to one morning, and she said Matt was coming over for dinner. It wasn't unusual for Matt to drop by occasionally. Sometimes with his wife, sometimes without, and sometimes when I wasn't there. I didn't think much of it. We have a security system with cameras both inside and outside our house that we installed after an unrelated incident a few years ago. They record, and both she and I have live access. I usually use those cameras to check on the dog when I or both of us are away, as the rest of the system is monitored by a company in case an alarm goes off. She knows I check those cameras, and there's a system set up so I can talk through them. I'd mess with my wife, and she'd go along with it if one of us was away. She also travels for work, but much less than I do. The thing is, it's known that I often check them when I'm not home. So, I turn on the camera and see my 4-month pregnant wife, lying on the floor, on her side, with Matt sitting, legs spread, using a foam roller to massage her hips. So, I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? I start rewinding the footage, and they're eating and chatting normally, but then they move to the couch and cuddle under a blanket. Now, they were a foot apart, but that couch isn't that big. Then they move upstairs, and that's when I logged in. Anyway, I text her while I'm still watching the camera, and they both look like deer caught in headlights, and he quickly leaves. We argue. She's not mad at me for accusing her, but she insists that nothing has or ever would happen, and what I saw was innocent, and she was just complaining about pregnancy pain. I know that's true, she's had some back pain issues, etc. The biggest point of that discussion was when I asked, if I were there, would you two feel comfortable doing any of that in front of me? And she reluctantly admitted, no, probably not. I told her I didn't want to talk further, and we'd discuss it when I got home in 3 days. That's when it hit me. What if that strange feeling I had when she told me she was finally pregnant was this? What if my 1% happened, and this baby isn't mine? Now it's eating away at me as I'm alone in a hotel thousands of miles away for 3 days. I keep telling myself, I think the chances of something happening between them are very slim. But basically, my 1% just went up to 10%, 20% maybe? I get home, and she's nervous and doesn't bring it up. I'm waiting to see what she does. 2 days later, she finally brings it up and breaks down. Swearing nothing happened, she would never do that. She doesn't go overboard trying to prove anything. I take that as a good sign. But anyway, we talk it through, and things are at least moving forward. I'm still processing, and trying to figure out how to rebuild trust after all this time. I'm beginning to understand that they are friends, have been for a long time, and maybe he had some intentions. But I don't see her having any, and I never really paid attention to it. I've spent time around both of them many times but never picked up on anything. So, what's tearing me apart right now is, if I'm wrong and something did happen, well, I could figure out how to deal with that. What if this baby isn't mine? During our argument and the few long conversations we've had about this situation, I've never brought it up, and she hasn't either. Mostly because I don't want to make things worse and devastate her if the truth is she's telling the truth, which I mostly believe. The only thing I can think of right now is to wait until the baby is born and immediately request a paternity test in secret. Should I do that? Should I tell her and deal with it now? If you were a woman in her position, and you were telling the truth, would that destroy you, or your view of me? If you were lying, what would you do if I asked? I don't want to ask too vague a question, but what should I do? TLDR, there's a very small chance my 12-year wife cheated, and she's 4 months pregnant, and I'm afraid to ask for a paternity test in case it crushes her, if nothing really happened. But I'm planning to do it secretly when the baby is born. What should I do? Update. So she left the state for a work trip late last night. Today is Friday, so she's working from home in our kitchen. I decided to bring it up and ask for a test. She immediately said yes and said she has no doubts and nothing to worry about for a second. But now, she doesn't have a problem doing it. The only warning I left is, according to our doctors, if it's invasive, I might wait until it's low risk. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what they have to do now. So, not sure when we'll do it. But she knows, and we're getting one. That was a decent long conversation. We're sitting down for lunch together right now. She doesn't know I did this on Reddit. Hence the new account because she's somewhere around here. Thank you all for the help and advice. Many of you made me realize that we've been really open about everything, and if nothing happened, she wouldn't be worried about getting one. I'm more concerned about her health and adding any insane levels of stress if it's an issue because she's having a high-risk pregnancy, and it took us so long to get pregnant. So, again, thank you all for your help. I suppose I might update if it's mine or not, but I'm not sure how long that will take. I'm pretty sure 90 to 95% it's mine. But this will help us move forward with this conversation. New update. Hi everyone. So I've totally avoided this account because I was pretty much bombarded with people telling me I'm AI, wishing my wife would miscarry, assuming she's secretly going to get an abortion to save herself, or that I'm a clown for not facing the truth and destroying someone else's marriage based on speculation alone. I'm surprised people are still following and invested in this after all this time. Yes, my wife is still very much pregnant. She's having trouble picking things up off the stage. She's due in 8 weeks. Scratch that, 6 weeks, just looked at the calendar. We're getting weekly ultrasounds at this point. He's about 5 pounds and has a big head. She and I have had very long, direct conversations about everything. She's adamant that nothing ever happened and never would. For a while, she was quite upset with herself for causing this and making me feel doubt. I've been trying my best to address that because I need to reduce her stress as much as possible right now. But it will certainly be revisited after the birth. Like I've said all along, I'm really just concerned about the baby and the delivery going well, etc. Well, mostly, not just that. The one thing we still really disagree on is that I think he got too close because he developed feelings or is on the verge of something that might lead somewhere, etc. She doesn't see it that way, but did say that it could be possible, but if so, she was blind to it. I told her I wanted a paternity test, and she immediately agreed and said no problem at all. My only condition was that it couldn't pose a medical risk or cause stress because she's having a high-risk pregnancy. We both talked to her doctor about it, and basically they told us that our only option was to go to court because they wouldn't do it without legal involvement, which both of us found ridiculous. Her doctor was a bit confused by that, so I didn't push it much honestly as she was quite demanding. I know there are other options. I've looked into those other options and ultimately decided to wait until the baby is born, and I've already set up a lab to do it, ready to go. I'm 95% sure it's unnecessary, but I still need that peace of mind, and mainly so nothing comes between me and my child. To those of you who left supportive messages that I didn't return to, thank you. I'll take some time tonight to look through them before disappearing again. To those who left messages suggesting I act like a 17-year-old high schooler and get violent, cheat on my wife to prove a point, or any other childish crap, at least thanks for the entertainment. Stop watching TLC and TikTok. That stupid drama is not the way, kids. And to the one who suggested I accidentally harm my wife, I hope you end up behind bars one day. I'll likely be off here after tonight until I get the results from the lab. So if you're still interested in the outcome, check back in 1.5 to 2 months. I'm told it should take about 48 hours after submission. So I'll give you your Maury moment. Hello everyone. My name is Peter. Welcome to the true stories being shared here. Please sit back and listen to today's story. Ate for not letting my ex-husband's new girlfriend have a piece of his mother's jewelry. Posting on a throwaway because my family is after me. My ex and I, let's call him Joe, have known each other since high school, started dating when we were 17, got married at 19, and divorced 20 years later. It's been 2 years since then. We have a wonderful daughter, Sarah, who's 8 years old and has adjusted well to our separation. Joe and I get along great. The divorce was amicable, and we remain good friends. It's not like we hang out alone or anything, but we don't argue or make a fuss. We help each other out, and most importantly, we support each other because, in the end, our number one priority will always be Sarah and doing what's best for her. We've both moved on and are in long-term, serious relationships with other people. His girlfriend, Lily, is wonderful and truly good to him. I've never had any conflict with her and enjoy spending time with her when we all gather together during holidays and other significant events or celebrations. Until last week. Joe's parents both passed away within a month of each other last summer, and it was devastating for all of us. Although Joe and I had been divorced for about a year by then, they still treated me like family, and I loved them dearly. Joe and Lily hadn't started dating, so she never met them, which is a shame because they were amazing people. Last week, Sarah received a box in the mail from her aunt, who was responsible for distributing my late mother-in-law's jewelry among the kids and grandkids. She had a huge collection of both costume and more expensive jewelry. I let Joe know about it, and he explained that some of it was left to me, so he would come over, and we'd go through it together. Lily came with him, which was fine. It was incredibly tough, and both Joe and I were very emotional, so I was glad she was there to support him. Here's where I think I might be the asshole. As we were going through the jewelry, we picked out a few of the less expensive pieces for Sarah, and I selected a few rings, a necklace, and 3 pairs of earrings to eventually pass down to Sarah too. Joe and I agreed that the rest would be placed in a locked box that we each have a key to at my house and would stay there until Sarah was older, at which point it would be passed down to her. One of the pieces we put away was a beautiful ruby and diamond necklace and earring set that was clearly very real and we believe had been passed down from Joe's grandmother. Lily admired the set and commented on how it would look perfect with the wedding dress she was eyeing. They're not engaged, or even with some of her date night evening wear. Joe didn't respond to her, and when she put it down, I wrapped it up and placed it with the rest of the jewelry in the lockbox. Since then, Lily has texted me multiple times asking about them and whether she could borrow them. At one point, she accused me of just wanting them for myself, and pointed out that Joe and I were divorced, so I had no right to keep them. She also mentioned that once they got married, the jewelry would legally become part of their marital property, so I was just delaying the inevitable. I have no intention of wearing them. Per my agreement with Joe, I'll wear the pieces I selected, and the rest will be saved for Sarah. I have no intention of taking anything out unless necessary, and even then, I'll let Joe know what's happening with it. Joe has been silent, and I haven't said anything because I don't want to cause any conflict that might affect Sarah. So, am I the asshole for not giving in and letting Lily have some of the jewelry that belongs to my daughter? TLDR, my ex-husband's girlfriend wants some expensive jewelry left for my daughter after his mother passed away, and I didn't let her have it, instead putting it away for my daughter. Related comments. Novel Sprinkles 3333. She sounds like someone who's quick to elevate herself, doesn't she? That's a huge red flag, and I hope your ex sees that too. The greed is truly disgusting. OOP, it's weird that this is coming up now. She's been wonderful since they started dating, and has been really good about taking things slowly with Sarah, and building a relationship with both her and me. Up until now, it's been nothing but green flags, and I was so happy he found someone who seemed like a great fit for him and made him really happy. I don't want to cause problems between them, but this is definitely concerning, and if this is her true nature, she's not someone I want around my daughter. Bigsta Shidad, it sounds like Joe has been silent on the radio this entire time with Lily. He might not want to get involved, or knows that the jewelry is meant for Sarah. The fact that Lily said it would be great to wear at her wedding and would be marital property once she and Joe are married is delusional. They're not even engaged. Unless I missed something in the story, isn't all the jewelry legally Sarah's? OOP, I know they've talked about marriage, but there's been no proposal or anything beyond that. Before this happened, I was excited at the thought of them getting married. Lily has been so good for my ex and Sarah up until now. I'm quite upset that she might be revealing her true colors now, and I hope that's not the case. The jewelry was left to Sarah with a note that I could pick out what I wanted from it because MIL specifically stated that I could have anything I wanted as long as it eventually went to Sarah. It's unlikely it won't go to her when I pass or sooner if she wants it when she's older. She's my only child and will eventually inherit everything I own. Commenter, it doesn't matter if Joe and Lily are engaged, married, or not. OOP, no, they're not engaged. Marriage has been discussed between them, but that's as far as it's gone. I was excited about the prospect until all this happened. I'm glad it's not just me finding this strange. It's not even like she's asking for a piece of jewelry with little sentimental value, but for family heirlooms that have been passed down. Sarah is too young to truly appreciate it all right now, but she had a great relationship with her grandmother, and even after the divorce, we FaceTimed every week, and I know how much it will mean to her when she's older. Commenter, OOP on who legally owns the jewelry and how OOP and Joe fit into this with the jewelry being placed in the lockbox. OOP, the jewelry was left to Sarah and me. I was allowed to pick what I wanted from what was sent because it was clear it would be left to Sarah when I pass, or it would be given to her earlier when she's older. I have no other children or stepchildren, so Sarah will inherit everything I own in the future, including the pieces MIL left to me. Since it was his mother's, I felt it was right for him to be there while I sorted through it. If there was anything he wanted to keep with him, I wouldn't have objected at all, because even though MIL and I were close, and it's now Sarah's, that was his mother. He and his parents had a wonderful relationship, and I would never say he couldn't have something of hers as long as we stuck to the agreement that everything would ultimately go to Sarah, because that's who it was all intended for. I tried to do the right thing because we're still friends, and I know how hard it was for him to lose his parents. At the time, I was really grateful Lily was there to support him emotionally because it was hard to see the pieces my MIL wore and cherished regularly. Just a deep reminder that she was gone and how much she was missed. When FIL passed away, Joe and his brother inherited a massive gun collection with instructions to divide it among the other siblings and their children as they saw fit. FIL and I were close, though not as close as I was with MIL, so when the time came, Joe asked me to pick something from his collection to keep as a memento of his dad, and with the understanding that it would eventually go to Sarah. I need to call the aunt who sent the jewelry to confirm, but I suspect it's a similar setup, with the jewelry being given to the girls to divide and distribute as they saw fit. Joe was aware it would be sent to Sarah and me, but there was no mention of any specific jewelry being set aside for him or his brother. Update. A lot of you asked for an update, so here it is, really quickly. I wrote this yesterday and realized it might be better to create a new post rather than edit that one. So, here's what's going on. Yesterday, Joe took an extended lunch break and came to the house without Lily. I explained to him why I was reluctant to bring everything up again, but I was tired of being harassed about the jewelry, and I truly felt it belonged to Sarah, not to either of us, and certainly not to Lily. He agreed immediately and was shocked to learn she asked about it, and then became angry when I showed him the texts. I thought the best course of action was to talk directly to him, and perhaps hand him my phone so he could see the conversation himself, leaving no room for her to accuse me of making things up or photoshopping anything. It was awful to see him so upset about it, and I get the feeling things will get worse because, from what he said, it sounds like Lily might not be around much longer, and regardless of that, she won't be allowed back in my house and won't spend time alone with Sarah if he doesn't break up with her. Yesterday morning, I also went and opened a safety deposit box at a local bank. It's not the one I usually work with, and as of right now, my name is the only one on it, and I have the only key. I was worried about Lily having any form of access to the jewelry when it was in the house, and until everything is settled, I feel better knowing there's no way she can get to it. Joe and I also discussed this when he came over, and he said he fully agreed that this was the best course of action to protect Sarah's inheritance. All but one of the pieces I picked out have also been put in there, and though I wanted to keep a few pieces to wear to remember her on really hard days, I'd rather know it's safe, and I still have a piece that brings me so much comfort. All notarized documents will be sent to me and will arrive here by the weekend, as I arrange a meeting with a lawyer to determine what else needs to be done to ensure the jewelry reaches Sarah without any issues or challenges. I spoke with the aunt who sent everything over the weekend after I posted this, and got so much helpful advice, thank you all, and asked her to send copies of everything related to it, along with documentation from her as the executor of who received what, etc. I didn't tell her about the issues with Lily. I didn't think it was my place, and I'll leave it to Joe to decide whether or not to tell his family, when he sees fit. Today I have an appointment with a GIA certified appraiser, so I can take everything to the lawyer, as well as photos and videos I took of each piece last night. I'm still leaning towards a trust as the best way to ensure Sarah's interests and assets are protected, but we'll see what the lawyer says and go from there. I feel terrible for Joe. He's a great guy, and even though our marriage didn't work out, I still care about him and always will. He's not just the father of my child, but one of my best friends, and I want him to find someone who loves him the way he deserves to be loved. It's just that whoever that is needs to understand that Sarah always comes first, and he and I will always work as a team to ensure she's happy, healthy, and successful in life. Nothing will stand in her way. Thank you all for the comments and for giving so much good advice and support. I truly appreciate it more than I can say. I didn't expect this to blow up like it did, and honestly, it's been really overwhelming. I probably won't update or add anything else here, so thank you again. Hello everyone, I'm Peter. Welcome to our space for true stories. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. We will select the best comments to send to the original poster, op of the real Reddit story. We hope your insights help them overcome their challenges. Thank you for being part of our community. Please sit back and enjoy today's story. And for letting you know I'm leaving you by sending you a post on the website you used to ignore me? Hello, Stefan. Maybe you'll finally listen for once. And if you're wondering whether you can rush home and stop me from doing this before I leave, it's already too late. I'm sending this after I've packed everything up in the car and left. Don't worry, I've spoken with the landlord and removed my name from the lease. I've also paid the rent for next month in advance. After that, you'll be on your own, buddy. I guess you're wondering why. I guess you'll act like you're completely blindsided, right? Because you've done absolutely nothing wrong, and you're such a fantastic husband and father, right? Well, buddy, let me put it to you in a language you can understand. I'm 29, married to my 35-year-old husband for 5 years, and we've been together for almost 10 years. On paper, everything seems fine, but in reality, our marriage is a mess. I've reached my breaking point, and I need to know if I'm the one in the wrong here. From the very beginning, my MIL has been a nightmare. She's made everything about her from day one. At our wedding, she wore white and claimed it was a family tradition. It wasn't. She constantly criticized me, from my cooking to my appearance. I will never forget the time she called me fat in front of everyone at a family gathering. And what did my husband do? Nothing. Not a single word to defend me. It didn't stop there. She's accidentally ruined my belongings, including my grandmother's necklace, which she threw out because it looked like cheap jewelry. She went out of her way to make me feel small and unwelcome in my own home. But every time I tried to talk to my husband about it, he brushed it off, saying I was overreacting or being too emotional. And then there's my husband. He's always on Reddit, constantly giving relationship advice to strangers, which is laughable considering how he treats me. He spends more time rating women's breasts on Reddit than talking to me. Literally. And you know, the last pair he rated wasn't a 4 out of 10, it was a 10 out of 10. Yep, he has all the time in the world for that, but can't be bothered to remember anything about my life. He forgets my birthday, our anniversary, even the simplest things like what I'm up to or what's important to me, but he's got a perfect memory for his work schedule and everything that matters to him. When we fight, he gets incredibly hostile and always throws in a sarcastic buddy at the end of his sentences, like I'm just some acquaintance he can barely stand. And he never lifts a finger around the house. Dishes, laundry, cleaning, you name it, it's all on me. It's like he thinks being an adult is optional as long as he's got a job and his precious Reddit account. The final straw came a few weeks ago. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a baby girl. My MIL started making comments about how she'd need to shape this girl up and how she'd raise her to be tough because I'm too soft. When I told my husband I didn't want his mom having too much influence over our daughter, especially considering how she's treated me, he just laughed it off and said his mom meant well and that I was overthinking it. But the moment that really broke me was when we were talking about future childcare, and my husband suggested his mom should watch our daughter while we're at work. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, especially given how his mom has treated me, and he snapped. He called me paranoid and told me to get over it because his mom would be a big part of our daughter's life whether I liked it or not. This is the same woman who believes in corporal punishment. I've seen her smack my husband's nephew for the smallest things, and no one ever does anything about it. It's like they're all living in some kind of cult, and I've finally woken up to the reality of what's going on. If he won't stand up for me, how can I ever expect him to stand up for our child? I began to dread the idea of our daughter growing up in an environment where she might be belittled or bullied by her own grandmother, with a father who wouldn't lift a finger to stop it. Oh, and did I mention he missed our first ultrasound? His mom needed him for some urgent task. Turns out, She needed her Wi-Fi fixed. Wi-Fi. He chose that over seeing our daughter for the first time. That told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in his life. So, I packed up and left. I'm done living like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I've already contacted a lawyer. You can't scare me into compliance anymore because I have all those texts. You know exactly which ones I'm talking about. So, Stefan, I wish you the best of luck in your future marriage, with your mom and the women on Reddit whose breasts you don't even deserve to rate. Am I the asshole for leaving my husband after years of neglect, letting his mother abuse me, and making me fear for the safety of our future daughter? Small update. Stefan saw this post. He's pissed because apparently one of you found him based on his breast ratings. He deleted his account. For whatever it's worth, I want to clarify that I left out any actual incriminating details that could lead to doxing him. Any and all people pretending to know me or have any incriminating information about me are lying. I'm not from South Carolina, I didn't move in with any other guy, and I haven't been sleeping around. New update. Some people on Reddit have been pretending to know me and spreading false claims. They're saying I'm a deadbeat who doesn't work, and that Stefan had 2 jobs to support me. They've even made up a story about a neighbor, someone they claim was a good friend of ours, saying I cheated and moved in with someone I supposedly had an affair with. None of this is true. We don't live in South Carolina or the UK, and we don't have any friends who are neighbors. I've never cheated on Stefan. I work, and I make slightly more than he does, just $1 more per hour. I suspect these claims are coming from either a troll brigade or Stefan's friends, trying to make me regret posting about this. I'm safe and with family, that's all I'm going to say for now. I'm working with my lawyer to ensure our safety, and that's all I can disclose at this time. For any women in my situation dealing with a lease, consult a professional lawyer who specializes in tenant rights. That's what I did. They can give you advice specific to your country or region. In my case, I was able to leave because Stefan and I had both signed the lease, and we had completed the minimum rental period. After a free consultation, I worked with my landlord, an elderly couple who were very understanding, to arrange my departure. So don't be afraid. Or, you can be afraid, but there are things you can do to protect yourself. Also, make sure you check your credit. I did, and that's another issue I'm dealing with. As for recent developments, there isn't much new. Stefan is apparently desperate. He and my MIL have both been having separate meltdowns and launching smear campaigns. My MIL has been spreading false claims, including that I'm an unfit mother and that I've abandoned my responsibilities. I have no intention of responding to these claims publicly. I'm gathering all the evidence I have, especially since she has nothing to back up her accusations, but I have everything to back up mine. So no, Stefan, this won't be a he said, she said situation. He deleted his Reddit account, claiming it's because someone found him. But then he told me a bunch of people sent him death threats, which seems impossible and contradictory. He sent his friends to my post, and I think they've sent me some not-so-nice DMs and comments. Allegedly. When I tried talking to Stefan, he always made me feel like I was losing my mind. Anytime I brought up a concern or expressed my feelings, he would dismiss them, belittling my emotions and making me question myself. Like the time I came home to find out he'd invited someone over without telling me. When I brought it up, he insisted he had mentioned it earlier, even though I knew he hadn't. Another time, I planned a special meal and asked him for a specific dish, but he said I had asked for something completely different. When I reminded him of what I had actually asked for, he would argue that I must have forgotten my own request. Stefan would also claim he had done tasks that I had actually done myself. For example, he'd insist he did the chores when I was the one who actually handled it. When I pointed this out, he'd dismiss my memory and swear he had done it. Even in conversations about our relationship, Stefan would frequently deny things he'd said or done. If I brought up issues I had with his mother's behavior, he would insist, "You've never mentioned that before, you're just being dramatic." It made me question whether I had ever really discussed these issues or if I was truly overreacting. At one point, I was so convinced I was losing my memory or developing early-onset schizophrenia that I started questioning my own sanity. I felt lost and confused, trying to separate reality from his version of events. I began documenting our interactions just to keep track of what was really happening. But Stefan always found a way to gaslight me, saying, "You're definitely remembering that wrong," even when I had clear proof to the contrary. Feeling powerless, I realized that sharing my story online was the only way to present my truth in a way he couldn't manipulate. I wanted to make sure there was a clear, unaltered record of what had happened. Posting about my experience was a critical step in reclaiming my voice and seeking support from others who might understand what I was going through. It was a way to control my narrative after feeling lost and doubting myself for so long. Thank you all for your support during this difficult time.